Welcome to the Bold Moves How Did You Know podcast, a podcast for the naturally curious who want to define their own path. Here, I'm sharing bold move stories that propelled my guests from curiosity to action, and in doing so, they've defined a path that is purposeful to them. Through these stories, I hope you'll be inspired to pursue your boldest dreams. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Diana Murphy. Diana is a life and mindset coach for leaders. She helps clients get back into their powerful lane no matter what growth or life circumstances have driven them out. As the host of the Leaders Table podcast, she teaches leaders how to fuel their ability to innovate, transform, and just disrupt while they create massive impact. Diana, I'm so excited to have you on the show. It's been so fun to get to know you over the last couple of months, and I was honored to have been invited on your podcast. And of course, I wanted to have you on my podcast because you have a lot of bold moves to share with my audience. So I'm excited for you to be here. Thank you again and welcome.
Oh, it's so great to be here, Kristen. When I saw the name of your business and then the podcast, I was like, "Oh my gosh, she gets this. She understands some of the dynamics of starting businesses, being a leader of a lot of companies, or like when I think of all the clients I work with, they are making bold moves." And I love just being in that space. So I feel like we found a like-minded partner in the world.
Diana is hosting these amazing dinners around town because you want to change the networking game a little
Yeah,
bit, Diana.
I
And I'm
do.
really inspired by that.
Yeah.
I've been talking a lot on this podcast about my vision for having bold move podcast club dinners.
Oh, what a great
Um,
idea.
I really want to get the community together in person and talk about our bold moves, how we're taking action, and supporting each other.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit about why you got the idea for your dinners.
Finding that gorgeous connection doesn't work in a networking thing as a transactional thing. Like, I'm going to refer you to my accountant. It just doesn't.
Uh-huh.
And so, honoring that, I love more intimate gathering and more intentional, get to the real stuff faster. And it's a getting to know one another before we ever share what our business is, because that's the know, like, and trust place. And I just love kind of doing it backwards.
The one thing, as I think about your putting together these dinners because you saw something that you wanted to change about networking, is a good reminder for all of us that we have to go after the change we want. We
Yes.
can't necessarily let it come to us. And I think that might be one of the bigger lessons in my journey as well. I, for so long, just thought if I work hard enough,
Yeah.
somebody's going to recognize me and give me all the opportunities that I want. And that is not actually what happens. I learned that it is not about getting something from someone. You actually have to go out and create your own thing that you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
I think that was a huge lesson for me. Did you learn that lesson somewhere
Yes,
along your
and
journey as well?
I think there are times in my business that I was confused. I've been a coach for 10 years. Initially, leader was sending me all her referral clients because she wasn't coaching anymore. I was coaching her VIP clients, and I thought, "Oh, this is how my business will be built." I had probably worked with probably 4 or 5 really decent clients, and it gave me the confidence to continue. I
Yeah.
knew who I liked working with. But what happened is she changed her business model and she just forgot about me. Like, seriously, this is just how this woman works. She's like, on to the next thing.
Wow.
And all of a sudden she was doing something so different. It lends to what you'd said. I'll get recognized and then it'll come. So I was given an example. Oh, she recognizes I'm a good coach right out of the gate.
Uh-huh.
She's giving me her clients, but that wasn't enough to fill a
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
It was a gorgeous gift. I learned to be a coach in that. She monitored some of my coaching and then just let me fly. I had a
Sure.
blast. It informed me about what I was supposed to be doing in the world. But the hard work I did there, and I got recognized by one of the top coaches in the country, it made no difference in my business. I had to go and do. I had to go and
Go and
create
do.
roundtables. I had to create workshops. I had to create what I wanted.
What a great immediate takeaway right off the bat. So now let's go ahead and talk about your bold moves journey. I want to read something that you shared with me to kick off this conversation. You said after a 40-year marriage, for many reasons, you started life as a single person and
Yes.
started dating again. This was bold. And here I am at 65 with a fresh tattoo and a great boyfriend and relationship where we're not considering marriage or cohabitation. And then you said, we're just weird. That's where you are today.
Yes.
So many things have changed, obviously,
Yes.
about your life. You can just see it in the two sentences I just read. You also called yourself a reformed good girl. I believe that was kind of the phrasing you
Yes,
used,
ma'am. Yes.
which also plays into this narrative.
Yes.
So take us back and through the bold moves you've realized over your life.
So I think the first bold move was deciding to become a coach. The bold move was at 55, I finally have the freedom and my kids are gone. They're really well established. And I went back to school before the coaching thing took roots. I was like having girlfriends like, why are you working? Why can't you won't be able to come to lunch? You're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do my thing. Because as I learned to be a weight loss coach, part of my journey was leveraging my time at Weight Watchers, and I became a leader. And I literally was coaching a room of women. I was coaching everybody at the scale. I was able to do it in the structure of Weight Watchers, even though there's some things I really left from that as a coach. But I was getting a lot of pushback from my
Yeah.
peers that is like, why are you doing this now? And I'm like, I have a business in me. I didn't understand it until I started stepping in and really honoring my desires. And I just loved the journey of becoming a coach and of becoming a business owner. It has been an honor to be in this journey. So that was my first one.
I was going to say too, if you're open to it,
Yeah.
take us into the personal side, right? Because you said that after 40
40
years of marriage,
years.
you decided that wasn't the right path for you
Yeah.
anymore. I mean, that is very vulnerable and scary. I can only imagine
Yeah. It's
not
like the
knowing what comes
safety. You could make an analogy of leaving a marriage because it's the stability, it's the structure of it. It's like leaving a
right,
big corporate job. It is very
right.
similar. Any move that we make from what our brain is telling us is safe,
Mm,
and there's so many like logical reasons, prefrontal cortex reasons, oh, insurance and da 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 in a
yeah,
corporate thing, or marriage, the stability, the home. And we had a rough season, and there were some very personal reasons that are like to keep to my vest because it's not
sure.
just my story. If it was just my story, I would share all of it. But that it was really unhealthy for us to be married, and it was
Mm,
a growth move and a bold move for both of us to be brave enough to
yeah.
leave the marriage. But we also, because of being undergirded by coaching for so long, two
Mhm,
things. I already was learning how to be emotionally regulated and to handle big changes. I'd
mm,
learned how to accept failures in my business. I learned how to get through really
mm,
tough things. And I had developed such a deep trust in my own decision making that by the time I was like 8 years in business, some of the big things that you need to do in a marriage, like decision making wise, I'd already built a self trust that I
mm.
could represent what I needed and wanted as we moved from this relationship. So that was one gift number one of being in personal development and being coached. I'm a coach that will not be without a coach. That is how I stay in my integrity.
Mm,
And the second was that then I had resources in my coaching community to go deeper and be highly supported. So that might be
mm,
for others, it might be hiring a therapist. We used a therapist for both of us as couples. And so we boldly also did our divorce different than most people. We had a mediation. We wrote our divorce and intention first, then made it legal, then had an attorney bless it. And we actually did not split our financial resources. We're living from them as one bucket. I
yeah,
knew I could trust the father of my children, and
sure, sure.
I knew that we were creating legacy at the age we are. We're not 40. We at the
Yeah,
age we are, we knew we wanted to make sure we protected the money for our well-being and then the kids going forward because we were living on retirement money. And we were living on retirement money, but I also had a business. So I had developed this trust where
yeah,
I knew I'd be okay alone. And so I can
Mhm.
shame, like, I should have left sooner. There's some ways I can look back. But what I realize is I would, like you, when you talk about this in
Mhm.
your story, where you started with therapy because you didn't know where to go and you knew something wasn't in alignment. I was doing that all along. I
Mhm.
created such a gorgeous safety net for myself by
Mhm.
all the personal work I'd done. I knew what
Yeah.
I wanted the minute it looked like it was the wise thing to do. And I jumped. I moved in 4 months after we both really knew this was going to end. And I moved out and I helped sell the family home. And I just started operating, living in Midtown Atlanta. And I got on dating apps and I created the life I wanted. We're at the end of some of this story in a gorgeous way, but boy, was that a personal development journey. The dating, the
Yeah.
therapy of phase forward with my kids, like the way that we're operating under a totally new structure. And it was disorienting for everyone involved. So it was a big deal.
I'm a Peloton member. Are you,
Yes.
Diana? All right, so I'm gonna kind of draw a comparison to one big takeaway I think I'm hearing from your story here, which is in Peloton. And so, for any Peloton members out there, you'll know that a lot of their messaging during their classes is like, you can do hard things.
Yes.
And I think that's what you're sharing here. Being bold is also training yourself that you have capacity to do hard things, and the more practice you can put in on doing hard things,
Yes.
maybe if it even doesn't relate to your bold move, this is where Peloton comes back into the story, which is like, they say you can do hard things in reference to lifting weights,
Right.
in reference to
Right.
pushing yourself harder on the bike. And I think if you just start to do things that you're uncomfortable with, but that's relatively safe, like
Yeah. Yeah.
if you don't exercise and you then start doing something 2 times a week, right?
Right.
That can be practicing doing hard things.
Yeah.
And when it comes to making a bold move, you feel more empowered because, like you said, Diana, you trust yourself. You build that trust in yourself.
And some of the things when we are in spaces, I think this is a really important piece. When we are in spaces that, like what you were honoring what I like to call, some call it intuition. I like to call it my knowing because it feels more sacred, like it's also listening to,
Mhm.
I don't call them my guides, the universe, but there is a spiritual component that is part of my knowing and a deep intuition. And what happens when you're in a space, I was in a marriage where I was disregarding my own needs at a very deep level.
Mhm.
And so was my ex-husband. And what I developed a trust in by trying, like my knowing in my business was that I did great in a workshop room with people live. Whenever I got off that path of doing that in whatever way I wanted, my business was stalled a little bit. If I thought it was all going to be in a different way,
Mhm.
like doing the biggest podcast and doing ads and doing, no, that's not me. And so trusting my knowing got bigger and bigger. And to be in a relationship that was at a point, not because of his actions, but that it wasn't a healthy relationship, I was dishonoring my knowing. So I have an opportunity, and that's what I'm living now, is to honor that at even a deeper level. And it starts with what you said in your story. Like, it starts with, I talk about it as like permission to want what you want. And so that's where
Yeah.
passion projects sometimes are how
Yeah.
people really honor, I'm going to stay in this career for, it's not my best. Like, I could go start a business. I could, but no, I'll just do this passion project. So I'm doing and
Yeah.
honoring this while I wisely stay in my corporation until retirement. I mean, there's no wrong answer on how we do this, but it's honoring that
Exactly.
desire. It's trusting that it's testing with bold moves and hard things. And I had
Yeah.
learned by building my business to a 6-figure practice in a
Mhm.
consistent way. Like, it almost surprises me now, but that was always my goal in the first 2 years. I
Yeah.
was going to do or die, going to do it. And I did. But that is what was the undercarriage for me. Even in an emotional way, I was stronger being able to leave than my partner. And I'm blessed by that. So I just love your concept of doing hard things, and they
Hmm.
don't have to be like leave your whole corporate safety and do this new thing. They can be, but if you
Yes.
honor your deeper intuition, you will find it will keep it's a better compass of finding the
Mhm.
things along the way.
Thank you for sharing something so vulnerable to your story. We all have those
Yeah.
vulnerabilities in our lives. Everybody's might look a little bit different, but I think there's so much power in sharing some of the hard times and
Yeah.
how we overcame those. I wanted to go back to this good girl concept. So, leading up to your latest chapter, you consider yourself a good girl.
Yeah.
So, what does that mean?
Because of my age, think generationally, it was at the end of women going to college to meet their partner. It was, my mom was so relieved that I met the man I married. It was summer school where we met and decided to stay together and get married. And you could see the relief on my mom's face. But there was a part of me that always was a little bit of the rebel. I wasn't going to change my name, and she was shocked by that. And we did decide to take on his name, and I won't change my name and divorce because my boys are Murphys.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. But there's this space of I was really good at being a rule follower. And the culture of that time taught women to be rule followers and to be quiet and to not have too much emotion. And so I
Yes.
did the thing. I won the prize. I got married. I won, but I also knew I was a salesperson. We both had sales territories. I moved to New York City. I
Mm.
ran a territory out of Queens, New York, and became Rookie of the Year. People just don't do stuff like, you moved to New York? I was like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
figuring it out. We're living in this little basement apartment in Staten Island, and I
Yeah.
drive over the Verrazano every day and go to work in Queens. And there's been a part of me that has always been a little rebellious or adventurous.
Hmm.
And but the good girl was like, I need to keep the marriage safe. I need to have kids. We had kids totally in freedom. We both were ready. But there was this space where I felt more acceptance when I did align with what everybody else was doing. We have to honor that that is why we stay in safety sometimes.
Hmm.
And so breaking down the good girl for me is getting on the dating apps when I was separated and not fully divorced. And it was up to the men that I'm just like I am here. I'm like, I'm not divorced yet. I haven't lived in the marital home since here, and this is what we're doing. If you're not okay with that, I understand, and move forward. And I was on a mission to get what I wanted, but in a healthy way. So I also had a coach along the way that was helping me to really navigate red flags and honor again my knowing in a very new way. The tattoo was kind of fun. I will finish with that part as the good girl. I knew telling my kids might be a little like,
Yeah.
what? And there was a what? Oh, but it's pretty, mom. The lines on it are cool. Like they got the story of it. But my mom was like, and I knew to just tell her, and I knew I go, I know you're not going to love this. She was like, I'm not so keen on the tattoo. And we were able
Yeah.
to have this loving conversation. But my
Oh.
old me, Kristen, would have hidden from that. I wouldn't have announced it. I would have still done it, but then thought I was doing something wrong. That's the layer of giving up the good girl.
It's the mental emotional breakthrough where you don't have
Yes.
that layer of anxiety
Yes.
or discomfort about being who you are. That's
Absolutely.
when you know you've broken through the notion of being a good girl. And I think we can all relate.
Yeah.
We're conditioned at an early age to be a good girl. I think my parents, every parent probably says, "Oh, good girl,"
Yeah. Yes. I'm
Like,
watching
"Oh,
myself with my granddaughter and saying good girl when she really behaves how we want her to. And I'm like, I want
uh-huh."
to change that conversation. And my kids are raising her in a very different way than I raised mine, and in a great way. But I also think that, and I love saying this because I coach men and women, men are suffering from those structures as well because they've been
Mm,
sold the provider role and the
uh-huh.
that one so stringently
Or
that when they don't show up in ways that maybe women need in a relationship, but they bought the goods like, wait, this is what everybody told me I was supposed to be doing. And so I think it's really important for us to see where those structures, where we're feeling out of alignment, and where it feels
Yeah.
scary is usually when we're bucking up against a structure that just isn't working for us anymore.
Wouldn't it be nice if the term rebellious didn't actually exist?
Yeah.
Because it's in contrast to being good.
Yeah.
And it's like, who's to say what's good?
Yeah.
Well, for
Right.
me, what good means, may be different from somebody else, but we have this narrative going on in society about what it means to be a good person
Yeah.
and living a good life and doing all the things that you're supposed to do. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that really resonates. Hey, will you? I know we're on video, and so this will be up on YouTube. Will you show your tattoo?
Oh,
Have
sure. It is about the whole journey, all the twists and turns. And up here, again, the lotus is the breakthrough. I feel like that's what happened this year. But it was the love along the way. You see the hearts. But it's
Yep.
also like the unconditional love was the theme I started the tattoo with.
Mhm.
And then I realized like my word of the year this year is brilliance. And it's like
Yeah.
really honoring the brilliance of my heart and love
Mhm.
that love, like the way we lovingly left our marriage.
Mhm.
But then it's also helping, like as a coach, that's what I see in all the people I work with. I see their brilliance no matter what is going on around them. So it just was such a great way to edify and honor what I've gone through in the last 2 years, and even
Mhm.
in an honor the love along the way is my kids and my ex-husband, like that we built something really gorgeous and raised two really great human beings.
Yeah.
And it's like that I get to close the chapter of marriage, but I get to create what I really want. And I want everyone to understand that you can do that within a difficult marriage situation. You can do it within a difficult corporate. You don't have to leave to solve everything. But
Mhm.
if you are going to leave, you can also create it in a way that is really life giving.
I was just thinking about, okay, I'll tell a little story and then I'll
Yeah.
get into what I was thinking and how it relates to this conversation. When I was living in New York City, I was planning on launching my business, Love Notary, at that time. And there was this workshop I don't even remember her name, but there was somebody that was putting on a live workshop and it was about starting a business. And I thought, I'm there. Like I am going to be launching this business real soon. And I just want to be surrounded by people who are also in business and hear what
Yeah.
this person has to say about what it takes to start a business. So I think I took off work that day or I called in sick or something
Yeah.
to be able to go to
Give
the
you the
event.
whole
Okay.
space to do it.
Yes. So I get into the event I actually sit next to the most lovely person. And then the speaker comes on stage and 80% of what she spoke about was mindset. And I had, having never not had really
Yeah.
launched my business yet, just starting and having all the excitement and the energy around starting my business, I was so confused, Diana. I was like, what do
What?
you mean it's mindset? I was like, I just need to know the tactical.
Yeah.
How do I put one foot in front of the other to start and run and grow a business? That's what I wanted to know. And here I am sitting in the audience getting all of this information about how you have to have the right mindset to start, grow, and sustain the business. And I was like, what in the world is she even talking about?
Right.
Now, fast forward, I don't know, 10 years.
Yeah.
And here I am knowing that mindset is 80% of it.
Yes. We do learn
Right?
it the hard way.
Yeah.
And even as a coach, I'll never forget that because I came from empty nesting, a lot of
Mhm.
volunteering, I hadn't been in corporate for a long time. I stayed home because the father of my kids was traveling 90% worldwide.
Yeah.
And so that was my job, and I loved it. But I was so like starting a business, I thought it was all tactical, but I also was so shaky, and I wasn't used to being
Yeah.
shaky.
Exactly.
And why was I worried all the time? Why was I procrastinating so much? I was just used to getting stuff done.
Right.
And I was seeking for 2 years because the coach school I was in was very young. Coaching had not gone to that. More like the mindset work was really, we were doing more replication coaching or mentoring in, when you think of the culture of it. And the coach I was with was total mindset, thought model. It's something I use in my practice all the time. And I became the coach I couldn't find,
Mm.
one that would honor whatever the dreams were of the business owner that's across from me, not the way, because every time I rubbed up against others in the room, they were scaling, they were doing this, and it was like, I want a boutique one-on-one. But you want one-on-one clients long term? I'm like, yes, I love
Mm-hmm.
it. I have a client that's 5 years with me.
Mm.
Again, this is the good girl wants to do what everybody else is doing and
Uh-huh.
run Facebook ads and do a funnel and all this. And
Right.
it was like I had to learn some hard ways. I tried those things and had to honor what I really wanted
Mm.
and honor my knowing and do
Yeah.
it my way. And now I help others do it their way, no matter what the challenge
Yeah.
is, you know? And so it's so interesting. I didn't even think about this until you shared the mindset journey is I became the coach that I couldn't find that would
Mm.
really honor people individually and not just teach this formula. And then
Yeah.
also hold space for people that do come in my room and they think, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, or help me be my accountability. And I said, the only thing I'm going to be accountable to are your dreams that we set as goals at the beginning, your vision,
Mhm.
coaching goals,
Yeah.
and helping you to not beat the crap out of yourself. Because that's the
That's,
biggest accountability
yeah.
is not letting people get into self-judgment and that self-critical. That's the mindset piece that most business owners and most people that make a big move experience a lot of.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, maybe this is a great way to parlay into the second to last question, Diana. What are the biggest challenges that you see people facing who want to do fierce things,
Yeah.
in your terms, in my terms, in bold moves? But what are some of the bigger challenges that people are facing? And what is the number one thing that you tell them to help them get over those hurdles?
Okay, so it really lines up with everything that we've been sharing. What happens where people get really stuck are the two things we've talked about. And the one is that they know they're out of integrity. They know that things are not going, either their personal life is just like whoa, yet all the success is being experienced over here, but the personal life is not what they want or what they need. That's just an example. Or someone is seeing something in their relationship or in their corporate position and they
Mhm.
think if they talk to me they have to leave. Like going into the therapist's office and you have the divorce coach, the divorce therapist
Yeah.
help you divorce.
Right, right.
No, you want to honor. So I think the first hurdle for everyone, whether they do this with a mentor or a coach or not, is
Uh-huh.
because you have a new brave idea, because you're being led to do something, it does not mean you might need to blow everything up and start over, but it doesn't necessarily mean it.
Yeah.
Our brain goes too far in what it
Yeah.
means. So
I
that's
see
the
that.
first one. It's like really knowing you don't have to blow up your whole life. And, I'll recommend people to create a side business first that can be
Yeah.
easily slid into instead of having a year possibly without great income. It takes a long time to generate from zero. I was from zero. I had no following. I had no other way. I was confused why other people were doing so well. Oh, they already had a following from some other
Yeah.
business. And so they became a
Yeah.
coach and it was just natural. Right. So again, it's like that hurdle is knowing that if you have something wrestling in your heart to make a decision on,
Mhm.
you don't actually have to do anything about it until you get really clear and really grounded.
Mhm.
So that's the work I do with people very initially. And sometimes I think people don't come into the coaching room because they do think that that's what they're going to have to act on. And people need to feel the freedom to make whatever decision is best for them, but get a
Yeah.
lot of clarity in those conversations.
I like to be really open about the fact that that journey for me in terms of figuring out
Yeah.
what I wanted to do took me 2 years,
Yeah.
a year and a half.
Yeah.
Same thing. It did not take a minute, right?
No,
It
and
took
giving
a while.
that's like where I can shame myself for knowing some things and really overriding some well-being in, like, I would say a good 5 years. That's my story. That's the way I saw it. And I can shame myself for not leaving sooner. But what did I create in the meantime? I left a marriage and had a business that could actually fully support me no matter how the finances went. And
Yeah,
so, like, what would I disregard? Like, waiting those 5 years? No, something gorgeous happened. Me
yeah.
shifting into my power as a business owner was solid. And
Well, that's it. Over the 2 years or the 5 years or
yeah,
whatever, Diana, it is you get preparing
yeah, that's the
yourself
80%
for.
mindset work you did.
Yeah,
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 you
yeah.
did it.
That, oh man, that's such a
Yeah, so
great way to
the
frame it up.
biggest one is that, and then a lot of the work I do, these parallels are so clear, is that, like, just as an example, I was working with a lot of people that were moving as rainmakers or really big deal corporate people or CEOs and sold their business, and
Yeah.
then they're starting something else. And
Okay.
some might do it in a franchise, and they're like, well, they're teaching me how to sell, but this isn't like how I would do it. And
Mm,
so again, that's the good girl, like the good boy, like where you're being taught a certain way in your community by your colleagues, the world, even your internal structure from corporate. And that's the growth, the identity shift from this is how I used to do things, that this is how I want to do them, is a shaky thing emotionally. That's what causes a lot of stress for us. It's normal.
mm,
But what most people, when they start going in their own lane and network the way they want to, not how everybody's telling them, if they show up, and like I had a client that would research her potential people so deeply and find these
mm,
common threads, and
mhm.
it worked. Like she was full book in 3 months, and now
Wow.
is like just soaring with her career. And some of it is like, I love Grader's ice cream and they're from so and so, so I'm sending them a ice cream party. It worked for her. Like, she did her, fully
Yeah,
expressed, didn't follow what all the other people in her community, it was, again, another big community. I was in the same
yeah.
boat. I was not going to run a Facebook ad if it, like, Facebook actually canceled my account, and I'm thankful. I tried to run ads and they canceled my advertising account early,
Yeah.
and it forced me to start live networking. And it was like, oh, that was for me. That's interesting. But that's the second big
Love
challenge, is that there's going to be so
that.
many messages outside, and it's, again, building that trust, taking some risks,
Mm,
making those kind of fun, adventurous decisions. Let's try this. Like me, I was
yeah.
like, let's try a retreat. Let's try a workshop. Let's try a podcast. I've had 4 renditions of a podcast. I'm like, so it's really, but it's very
Yeah.
disorienting at first.
Can you report that you are happier and more fulfilled because you have listened to what you call your knowing, but also then leading to your bold moves?
Absolutely. I would have it no other way. I would have it no other way to be brave enough to leave the marriage, the brave enough to just start the business and honor this mission and calling that I think is, coaching can really be a calling.
Mhm.
And the fulfillment and the happiness I have of holding to my standard, like when you think about dating and relationships, and it's the same as like, what kind of clients do you bring into your practice, that kind of thing. I really didn't think it was possible to have what I have right now. I really didn't.
Mhm.
And a year ago, I was like, it's going to take so long if I'm fully expressed in this. Like, you see my energy and my, like, I'm a lot, and I'm owning that I'm a lot. I'm perfect for the people that are my people. And that's what all of us have to understand too. We're not going to be for everyone. And it's the best for us to be a little weird, like I said. And the relationship I'm in, both he and I are like, we're co creating it. People are going to start asking, I'm sure, in the next year.
Mm.
And like, are you going to live together, or are you going to do this? Well, right now, no. And right now, no. We aren't going to put ourselves in a bucket of marriage. We're still healing from what that structure, like, what do we want from that and what don't we? We get to just we're unicorns.
Mhm. Mm.
Who knew if 8 years ago somebody told me that my business was what's going to give me the trust and faith to be able to move out on my own, I wouldn't have believed them because I was struggling so much then. But and I wouldn't have believed like 2 years ago when I started dating and all the craziness, like I could write a little handbook on the dating apps, like, oh my God, what I've gone through. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't trade it for the world because what I learned about myself in it was to deeply, at layers and layers of trusting my own knowing and what I know is best for me.
You used the word impossible when you were talking about how you feel right now in comparison to how you felt before. You said, I thought it was impossible. How in the world do you move forward when your belief is this is impossible? And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with.
I was being coached in that conversation. And I said, I am afraid, and this is all of us, like, I'm afraid when I start a business, when I do this, when I, whatever it is, whatever bold move might be on your mind, I'm afraid if I fully show up as myself that I'll be rejected. And I just said the line, I said, I'm afraid if I show up fully as myself, which I was starting to feel really back home in the healing I'd done, that it's going to take a really long time to find a partner that's up for it. And I met the man I'm seeing right now for 8 months now. And we were a fixed up date by a friend. Never had done that before.
Yeah.
And we've been together 8 months since that date. And it was like, what is happening? But I didn't get off I wasn't going to lower my standards or lower my dream. I was more than content to have a gorgeous relationship with myself and be single and have great friends. And I was on this journey of like, I'm going to have more mixed friendships. I'm going to invite more couples over for dinner. Like I was stepping into a new way of doing life that way, not just with my girlfriends. And I meet this man. He loves being social. We double date all the time. It's like I literally created it because I honored that desire, even though it
Oh,
felt
that's
like it
cool.
was impossible.
Yeah. And I would say too to that notion of I feel this dream of mine is impossible, that people have to see to believe. So go out and find other people that are
Yes.
doing exactly what you want to
Yes.
do and start changing your belief, because it all starts right there.
Yeah.
If you see other people, even if you don't know them, if you see other people doing what you're doing, then you're going to start changing your mindset and being like, okay, maybe I'm not
Yeah.
100% that's impossible. Maybe now it's 70%. And then the more people you see, the more people you
Yes.
talk to who are doing things that were in your realm of impossibilities, you start to think, oh, that's not impossible for me anymore.
What I also think is really important, and this is our brain gets amnesia. Like, think about the best week you've had business wise, like, because on Wednesday you signed the biggest contract. By Friday, if you're tired, if you've had a hard day, you have maybe a small client leave, you're
Yeah.
leaving that week going, I had a bad week. Is that
Yeah.
true? No. Our amnesia is sickening to me. Like, so also the impossibility conversation is like, no, when you're doing something new, where have I done this before? And it was like, then I go back to, I fully took on being an at home mom, but I ran fundraisers and I ran a Bible study of like 30 women. And I did all these gorgeous things that fully expressed myself in this at home life. And it's like, I look back on that, that was all of my growth that prepared me to open my business. There's so many more points. So that's what I would recommend when it feels impossible. Wait, where have you done impossible before?
Yeah.
There's somewhere, because we're humans and there are things that we just never thought we would be capable
Yeah.
of doing.
Yeah. It's a great point. You have to override your
Yeah.
thoughts because your brain goes negative 100%
It's
of the
just, it's a
time.
protective thank you. Like we when it gets
Yeah.
negative, we just need to thank it for trying to protect us.
Yeah.
We know better.
What do you know about being bold today you wish you would have known earlier on?
When I was initially starting my business,
Mhm.
if I really look back, if I was doing it the right way, going slow, going with one-on-one clients the way I like to, deep work.
Yeah.
I had a coach that I'm working with that is talking about these online coaches are suffering right now. They're in deep pivots because the industry is changing. And she's like, oh, Diana, I'm so glad your business is so agile. And people are going to be envious of like what you've created. And I was like, oh my gosh, if somebody could have told me in year 2 that I was doing it exactly right, I would have suffered less.
Thank you so much for being here,
This is
Diana.
so fun. We
I
could go on and on. We don't want
yeah,
to make it
on
too
and
long for our listeners, but oh my
on.
goodness, Kristen, this is fabulous. There's so many parallels of how we have done bold moves.
Mm. Yes, thank you again. How can people contact you if they want to reach out?
I love personal connection. If you just have a question or anything, you can email me, Diana at dianamurphycoaching.com. But if you heard anything today that you'd love to do some deep work in your bold move, that is the coaching work I do.
Thank you again, Diana. This has been so fun.
Thank you.
And for everybody else listening, please make sure to follow this podcast so you never miss another one. And I just got some feedback, actually, Diana, this week that going into the podcast apps and finding follow and then how to rate and review is a bit of a
It is.
challenge.
I think
So,
this is very helpful. Let's go ahead and share how to do it.
so basically, on Apple Podcasts, you have to go to the series page, not an individual episode, the
Right?
actual show page. So my podcast is, of course, called Bold Moves. How did you know? So you go to the show page, scroll down a little bit, and then it's going to come to an area where it says write a review. And right there also is rating the podcast.
Yes.
So I would really appreciate if you could do that. It helps other people who are looking to make bold moves and get more confident about it.
Yes.
It'll help the show reach them.
I found, I don't know if you found this, the app is easier than the desktop.
Oh,
So, yeah,
yes.
so the app is better to do reviews from. And they don't post right away. So if you don't see your review right away, just wait. That like Apple reviews it before they put them on. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. I appreciate you helping me out with those tips there because I'm
Oh my
realizing
gosh.
it's not as easy as what it sounds like.
Yes.
And the follow button is actually in the upper
Yeah.
right-hand
Little click with the
corner.
plus.
Thank you
Thank
again. Bye,
you.
everybody. See you
See you
later.
soon.